Good evening tonight, folks. What's good with you? Checking my audio levels to make sure I'm good. How y'all doing tonight? You good? I'm tired. But good nonetheless. I'm good nonetheless. I have so many things in my mind today. I'm just trying to narrow down what I'm going to talk about. Right? As usual, I'm always shooting from the hip, but right before I go to podcast, there's always going to be a moment where I'm going to settle in on which body of principles I'm going to focus on through the course of the podcast, and hopefully I dial in well enough and I'm able to describe things fluidly so that people are engaged and can follow along. Sometimes it's hit or miss, but I guess what I ultimately settled on tonight was the subject of setting boundaries. Setting boundaries, and I think that's what I called it. Is it setting boundaries or establishing boundaries? One of the two. Setting boundaries. There we go. Right. Now, I was just talking to my brother Gabe about boundaries and what they entail, right? A lot of people... the easiest way to tell who your friend is and who your friend isn't is a person who's not your friend, a person who feels no sense of connection to you or allegiance to you. They feel offended whenever you set a boundary. Someone who actually loves and reveres you and sees you as an extension of themselves, when they set a boundary, you don't take personal offense to it. You recognize it as them taking care of themselves, and in the process of them taking care of themselves, you're happy for them. Because if you love them, you view them as an extension of yourself, so keeping themselves safe is, in essence, keeping yourself safe. But narcissists take extreme offense to when anyone sets a boundary with them. Narcissists, they test boundaries. They try to force their will on things and force people in reality to bend to their own sense of potency, their own feelings and beliefs in power, and their feelings and beliefs of authority. I'm going to force my will on you. And you say, nah, don't do that. And if they love you, they're like cognizant of your experience, and they're like, nah. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I don't want to cause distress to my people. If they're not cognizant of you and they're narcissistic, they're going to be like, fuck you. Who do they think they are telling me what to do? I'm going to do what I want anyway. Do you realize the whole point of this avatar thing? It's not... Again, this isn't an exercise in pride for me. I never decided to be this thing. I didn't know that such things could exist. And to find out that something is living inside of you and, well, basically using you as a puppet, it's disconcerting to say the least. It's alarming. But here we are. The point and purpose of Avatar, the thing I'm hosting, or Holy Ghost, or Holy Spirit, or whatever you all refer to it as, the point of it existing is reality is trying to communicate with the species of humanity. Because humans process information and reality on idealism, they're fundamentally divorced from reality, meaning that their intuitive connection to reality, the sensory faculty through which reality would normally communicate to life forms, it's eroded. So, it sends an agent to use an instrument, an agent. Reality sends one of its agents to take up residence in an agent, or virion, belonging to a disease, and it attempts to communicate with the disease through idealism. It says, I know you all can't hear me through the channel I would normally communicate with you through. So I'm going to send something to try and communicate to you in a way that you will understand. I am a system. I am incontrovertible. This was here before you. I was here before you. Even though you are defective, everything about you ultimately sources to me. You are operating within my body. You're operating within my system. You will sync back up with the system, or I will purge you from this system for being corrupt with extreme prejudice. I'm sending something to communicate to you to give you a fair chance. That's the whole point of the avatar. A, right now you guys are operating under corruption. Corruption is an enemy to my system. You couldn't have known this because you've only had knowledge to go on to this point. You haven't had direct access to me. So I'm giving you direct access to me using one of your agents to communicate with you. I'm giving you a fair shake. Now, why do I mention that? I mention that because, well, if you're truly corrupt, you know what you're going to do? You're going to try to compete against that agent. You're going to try and compete against the entity, the system of reality, sent to help you recognize and sync up with it. That's when you're truly corrupt. But when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, circling back to the point of this video, reality is simply setting boundaries. You will perform within these parameters, or you will catch this fade. You will operate within the guidelines of natural organization, or at the very least be a benign life form, but you will not remain in an aggressor state, or you will face me. And I will pull no punches because I seek out and destroy corruption without fail, with extreme prejudice, and with absolute certainty. I just wrote an essay last week. You can call it an essay. It's more akin to a scholarly article. The only thing is I'm explaining principles. I'm not sourcing any of the things that I say to convention or human belief systems or ideas, knowledge systems. I'm explaining the principles of reality according to how I'm able to see them because of the entity that's operative within me. There's no room for consensus. There's no room for your beliefs or audits. I'm not asking you for permission to say any of these things, which considerably removes what I'm saying from the realm of being scholarly. Because in order to be scholarly, you have to link what you're saying to what other revered figures have said, and or to that which has been stated by individuals who've been imbued with authority at the institutional level. Human authority is laughable. It's laughable. It's easy to think that you're great when you only compare yourself to yourself. Humanity compares its progress to its old progress. As such, it's high on the idea of how great it is. You look at your cameras and you look at your little lights, your computers, all the fancy little tech gadgets you come up with. And you're like, man, we're so great. Look at all that we've accomplished. Not even realizing 90% of your technical acuity is imbued to you by society, which is actually a life form derivative from a higher parasitic life form, extending all the way up to a parasitic twin universe, your technology, by the standards of species exponentially more advanced than you, is archaic. You're still at the sticks and rocks level, but when you're comparing yourself to yourself, of course you're fucking great. Somebody asked me this question of, do you have proof? Do you have proof for what you're saying? Do you have proof of the things you're saying? And I'm like, yeah, but that's a ridiculous question. In order for me to supply proof to you, you would have to have systems advanced enough to verify the things that I'm saying. You would have to have systems advanced enough to verify the things that I say. If I'm saying things that are ahead of where you're at right now in your present state of understanding, how could you possibly hope to verify my claims? I bring what I'm saying and what I understand down to your level of comprehension. That's the point of an avatar. Transfer principles of reality, including natural organization and viral parasitic organization, into idealism-based languages that perform at the level of humanity. But you guys can't even keep up with extraterrestrial AI yet. Prove what I am to you? Based on what? What do you have to verify it against? What do you have to verify it against? And an analogy that I was using earlier in describing my circumstance to a friend is, imagine Nikola Tesla trying to explain lasers and electric currents to 16th century theologians and philosophers, using their ideal types and their language models. Oh yeah? You know about lasers? Yeah, lasers. What are lasers? No, I need you to be able to fit that into the Bible. Fit that into what this man, fit that into what this person over here said. How can you fit something that is exponentially more advanced? Exponentially more advanced than a system. How can you compress it down into and fit it into a system that isn't big enough to accommodate it? How? You know how long it took me to write that? It took me a week. I'm a prolific writer. It took me a week of writing and editing to translate the principles I put in my last article out. It took me a week to do that. It doesn't even take me a week, like just to try and organize the principles to give you guys a basic framework to start with. Do you know how physically taxing it is to go that deep? You ever seen that show, Stranger Things? You know when 11 is using her powers and she gets the nosebleeds and all that other stuff? I don't get nosebleeds, but it's a physical toll. Delving that deep into bodies of principles, trying to unearth all this stuff to pass it over to y'all, it's a higher level of labor than anything that I've known, and I've done strenuous work before. It's mentally taxing. I can invent faster. I can write songs and all that other stuff faster than I can delve into bodies of principles and translate them into the English language. It's grueling, it's taxing. Because trying to take something that is the size of this planet and fit it down into something this big that's digestible to you all, fuck out of here. And we're going to get back to the point of the podcast. Setting boundaries. You know what swarming is? And I'm going to probably talk about this in a separate podcast. Swarming is what you call it when groups of people try to gang up on and devalue, invalidate, and destroy something. Mob mentality, but online. Anytime somebody comes to me and the first thing they try to do is lead with a like. And I'm going to get into why I'm just happy to delete them these days. What they're trying to do is they're trying to weaponize the mob against me. They're trying to start a swarm. Okay? So if I have something that has all hearts on it, or just something that I put out, which a lot of the things that I do, they generally get a lot of love. So someone tries to rush to be the first to put a like on it or something like that. You know what they're doing? They're trying to swarm. They're trying to be the first. They're trying to draw first blood towards getting the mob to gang up on and devalue something. And this stuff is meant to actually help not save your life, save your soul and what's about to fucking happen to it. I take what I do very seriously because I can see what's going to happen after this. For humans, regardless of whether or not you believe it, you have no point to, you have no reason to disbelieve it at this point. But people are trying to swarm. They're trying to draw first blood so that they can trend other cowardly people into joining them and tearing something down so that they can feel powerful. That's the basis of cancel culture. Swarming. I put out boundaries. Don't behave this way towards me. I know what you're trying to do when you do this. You're trying to start a swarm. You're trying to weaponize a group of cowards against me. I see you. Don't do this. I set a boundary. I set a boundary. Now, how do people respond to that boundary? That determines how much they like and respect me. If they're like, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want, then it means that they bring a different energy to me than I bring to them. It means I respect them more and I love them more than they love and respect me. Which makes it a symbiotic, non-mutual bond. They have a parasitic interest in me. I want to benefit at your expense. I want to take from you in efforts to empower myself. I get rid of such people without hesitation, and they're going to have to face me once we're out of these bodies anyway, in the worst fucking way imaginable, because they aggressed. They led with attack. They tried to draw blood. When me and Gabe were talking, Brother Ashbro, what's good with you, boy? When me and Gabe were talking, I was explaining to him the mechanism behind this. People want to devalue. They want to, when someone wants to test boundaries with you, they essentially want to dominate you. Again, competition is an attempt to dominate. The only people who you try to compete against are people you view as rivals. If I see you as my brother or my sister, and you see me as a rival, we aren't gang. We're not together. A relationship is a system of interactions that forms when two people develop a symbiotic connection and or enter into a state of intuitive mutualism. If I come to you in peace and you come to me with a dagger or a poison dart, and what you want to do is somehow break me down while I'm trying to build you up, we can't rock. That doesn't just apply to me, that applies to the avatar, the entity I'm hosting. It's here trying to help you. It's here trying to help develop you so that you don't catch wrath from the system of reality. Most of you all have repaid the generosity of this joint venture between this entity I'm hosting and myself with funky attitudes, piss poor behavior and aggression. Your pride has caused you to make enemies you can't unmake without actually doing work to restore bonds. Your pride. You sit around and you run and you listen to your little buddies, little fucking cowards, tell you that they know better than let's even take the ethereal element out of it. They know better than a human they've never seen fuck up. In terms of understanding, in terms of organizing and aligning concepts, people's pride tricks them into believing somehow they are smarter than someone they don't see make conceptual errors. And the person who doesn't make conceptual errors sources that ability to an entity he happens to be hosting and doesn't take personal credit for it. The odds of this individual being off about what's coming in the next life cycle versus what you all have learned through convention, the odds of me being wrong compared to what you've learned in convention, there's nothing to calculate. I'm exponentially more reliable than everything, all of the ideas you've come up with, all the system of ideas you've come up with. Yet you bring your pride. And then the worst part about it is a lot of you cowardly people, you let other people's pride drag you into battles with things you have no chance of defeating. Just pride. Your funky attitude. Something is trying to help you, and you want to compete for attention. Something's trying to give you the inside scoop. And you want to defend your identity and prove that it's not more special than you. Reality has set boundaries. In interacting with me, I set boundaries. If you're narcissistic, you choose to ignore those boundaries, and in doing so, you fuck yourself up. You fuck yourself over. For pride. Comment here. Let me see. Brother Ashbro comes in. I try to compose myself for me according to my values, my conscience, my morals, my sense of respect or virtue are. I find I've had to do it this way because when I try to compose myself for others due to our bond, when that bond is shaking, their behavior. Shaken by their behavior, composing myself for them becomes difficult because I'm perceiving them as fucking up. So I'm respectful for me and composed for me because it is part of the character I aspire to, and thus it depends much less on the other person's behavior, speech, personality, or whatever. Yep, you know what? That actually rolls over into a greater point. See, everything that is like I talk about in terms of helping people learn how to change their attitude and outlook and behavior, it goes to what corruption is at a fundamental level. For humans, the easiest way to define corruption is it's a terrible attitude. It's a terrible outlook on life that essentially justifies them in behaving badly and being selfish. That's what corruption is. Corruption is, if reductively stated, my excuse to look out for me and benefit myself over and ahead of everyone and to live unconsciously. You can't let, other people's, or the fear of maybe offending other people, be your motivating factor in trying to want to get the corruption out of your heart. You have to want to do it for you. You have to want to do it for reality. You have to want to face your trauma instead of using your trauma, your phobia of disempowerment as an excuse to try and steal power from others and to force your inner rage into others. You have to actually face and deal with that shit so that you don't carry that energy within you. There are a lot of people out here in the world who act very nice. They act very nice, but they are corrupt to the core. They have the worst attitudes. They're pious, they're judgmental, they're rude and aggressive. They have no innate desire to do good to anyone in ways that doesn't benefit them at a social material level. They want to look like good actors, not actually be purposeful and positive life forms. They call themselves Christians or Muslims or whatever. They do all the things that make them considerably good in their respective societies. At the end of the day, their heart is vile. It's full of hatred. They talk about how God looks out for them and benefits them and all these other things. In reality itself is like, I'm going to purge the fuck out of you. You're an awful human being. You're an awful life form. Narcissistic to the core. But because they haven't faced any real adverse reactions from reality yet, they are of the assumption that they're blessed and highly favored. Oh, that is like the worst. I'm literally in an avatar, and you've never heard me call myself blessed and highly favored. I've been to heaven. I've met God. I've been face to face. I met the other avatars. I met Jesus. You've never heard me call myself blessed and highly favored. Ever. I'm a successor. The reason why you see me make sense is because the same entity that was operative within him is operative within me now. Carrying out the same work. Preparing this universe and its respective structural building blocks for a shift that's going to occur in which two universes, two life forms are going to be fused into one. A conjoined twin is about to happen. It's that simple. Everything that's corrupt, everything that made messes in these universes towards benefiting themselves at the expense of others and the bodies of these universes. Reality is like, oh, you made a mess of my system. There is nowhere for you to run. You don't have a choice. You're going to have to answer to me for it. You better get to work trying to clean up and make shit right, because everything that's out of place is getting charged back to you with interest. And if you still have that funky attitude, by the time I raise this sword, not only am I going to charge you for all the messes you made, I'm going to make you suffer in ways you can't even begin to fathom. For being a dick. No one made you be corrupt. Corruption enticed you. It didn't force you. You chose to let corruption in your heart, like letting a vampire into your home. You let it in. Now you're going to fix what you've done under its control, or you're going to pay for it. And I'm going to treat you in the exact same way that I treat corruption. You're going to catch this fade. Let me see what's going on over here. You've said in the past that narcissists sometimes make another person part of their own self-image. It makes sense when parasites are dependent on another for their survival that a parasitic identity is requires others to fit an image to satisfy self-aggrandizement. Yep, and that's exactly right. A parasite knows that it's structurally incomplete. A parasite knows that it's lacking, but it has to be able to justify its existence and justify living and benefiting at the expense of others. So what does it do? It makes itself a god. It makes punishment and injury and coercion and intimidation. It makes these godly traits so that it is always good, even though the impacts that it makes on reality and makes on systems are unilaterally bad sources of distress. Humans think that they're up against humans. Ironically, the intelligence agencies and the ones they answer to, and then the ones that they answer to, for some reason are all, even though they've been watching me in action, still try to convince themselves that they're up against a man, which is the most fucking retarded thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, they have enough information to realize this isn't a joke. Yet their pride still convinces them that they can win a contest when they don't even understand the parameters of the fucking board. It's like trying to beat someone in a game you came up with in the middle of a busy intersection at midnight with lights not working on a planet that's about to get blown the fuck up. If your only thought, if your only focus is advancing to the next square on the board, and you're not cognizant of what's happening in reality around you, you're fucking yourself. If you're listening to people who tell you to focus exclusively on the next spot on the board, and you listen to them over paying attention to what can be observed in reality, independent of the stupid fucking game you're playing, you set yourself up. Testing boundaries with reality. Many of you have tested boundaries with me. I take exception to it. I take great offense to it because I've only brought brotherly love to you. I brought acceptance to you, kindness and compassion, patience to you. And you bring your funky attitude to me, and your narcissism, and your desire to transfer your rage into me. All because I'm saying things that don't verify the story you tell yourself about the world around you and your place and value within it. Just to recap, someone comes to you with love, patience, and understanding. And you repay that love, patience, and understanding with your pride, with your vanity, and aggression, and desire to swarm against, suffocate, and destroy someone for simply saying things that don't suggest you're right. How do you think that plays out? No one made you do it. No one made you be a dick to me. It's something you chose to do based on your pride. Pride is self-worship. It's self-idealizing. It's something you practice. You practice being a dick to everyone around you, so that ultimately you felt justified in being a dick to the wrong one. No one made you do it. Now when I block people, I'm doing them a favor, sparing them from incurring additional, I don't even want to call it wrath, consequence for aggressing against a thing I happen to be hosting that has the highest level of contempt for human vanity. It has the absolute highest level of contempt for human vanity, because vanity is synonymous with corruption. This entity I'm hosting, it is literally designed to seek out and destroy corruption once it's free of this physical form. All life forms, humans especially in this case, were imbued with a capacity. The capacities for reasoning and honesty, and through the practice of reasoning and honesty, to develop their sensory faculty of intuition, which connects them to reality. Once they're connected to reality, they see things clearly, not through the state of delusion that they generally perform through, and as such, they're able to hear reality. When they're able to hear reality, they can see the messes they've made. When they see the messes they made, they also can consult reality like, yo, I didn't realize what I was doing. How do I make this right? Hell, they can come kick it with the avatar. I'll tell you how to get it right. Or at least minimize it to the best that it can be minimized to this point. But none of this shit is free. Reality set boundaries. It has set boundaries. All systems have set boundaries. All systems have set boundaries. And when you encroach upon or cross or violate those boundaries, you violate the system. Let's see. I'd like to know what the parameters. I'd like to know the parameters of the board. Also, the parameters of identity. All in the name of being able to manage myself in an improved way while I am alive. I'd like to be a wise and virtuous man at the end of the day, or the likeness of such. Well, good brother, first of all, this is a great question. The parameters of the board. Don't even worry about the parameters of the board. When you recognize and sync up with reality, you don't even have to worry about the parameters of the board, because the game stops being important. When you like, again, if we're going back to the analogy that I used of playing a game in the middle of an intersection at night with broken lights on a planet that's about to get blown up, when you are cognizant of the planet about to get blown up, then you can prioritize what you're going to do with your time instead of wasting your time on a stupid fucking game in the middle of an intersection. Because even if you make it to the next space in the game, you're still going to get hit by a car. Right? And if you move out of the car, or move out of the way of the car and leave the game in the road, then at least, even if you can't get off the fucking planet, you know, you go and spend some time with loved ones or whatever. But let's say that there's a spaceship 20 yards away, and motherfucker's like, hey, come on, come over here. This shit's about to blow up. That's the only way you knew the planet was going to blow up, is because extraterrestrial was there, like, oh yeah, the planet is going to blow up. You better come with me. I'm not going to probe you. I'm telling you, this planet's about to blow up. Look, we got some people over there and people over there. They're getting other people on ships. We're trying to preserve y'all. Come on. If you're prideful, you're like, no, fuck you. I'm not. You want if you're stuck in your inner story, if you're stuck in the mirror, worshiping yourself, you're not even looking up from the board to even see the cars in the intersection that you need to get out of in order to see the aliens to get off the fucking planet. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get people out of their get out of these prisons of mirrors. Like they can't stop worshiping themselves. And bringing it back down to the level of the conversation right here. You know, bringing it back down to the level of the conversation. This addiction people have to worshiping themselves, to self-idealizing, it destroys everything. They can't have relationships with people because they're too busy worried about them and worshiping themselves. They can't do anything beyond admire themselves and how great they are. And as a result of that, they don't respect other people's boundaries. Someone says, hey, don't do this to me. A narcissist is like, you don't tell me what to do. I'm so special. I'm so great. I do what I want. What do? They go around violating people. Every rapist is a narcissist. Every pedophile is a narcissist. Every social predator, every crooked cop, narcissist. I say most law enforcement agents are fucking narcissists. Soldiers, even if they're not narcissists, they get conditioned or cultured into becoming narcissists. The socialization process trains you to be a narcissist. Over and over again down the line, people worshiping themselves. Thinking that they're great, comparing themselves to their own species and to their peer groups towards seeing themselves as greater than someone, to the tune of destroying themselves and the world around them, chasing a fantasy of an ideal that is an identity. Setting boundaries. When a person you love sets a boundary, you're happy. They give you a way of interacting with them that lets you know how not to be offensive to them. I've been in relationships before with ladies who had, some past traumas, some traumatic things happen to them. And as a result, their way of interacting with me was very guarded. It's very guarded, and I'm like, sometimes I took personal offense to it, but other times I'm like, yo, let me respect your boundaries. Be like, hey, don't do this. I don't fight to say, well, why can't I do this? Hey, no, she said this because this is how she's going to feel safe. Me loving her made her an extension of me. Someone testing those boundaries with her was someone testing boundaries with me. Because when you love someone, they become an extension of your true self. And in the same way you don't want someone violating boundaries you establish, you don't want to violate anyone else's boundaries. But if you're a narcissist, you go around and you're like, hey, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Me. You ruin things, you ruin people, you destroy relationships, just trying to benefit yourself. Yeah. And back to your other point, you manage yourself. You want to be the better person. You want to know the parameters of the identity. I wrote about the parameters of the identity in the in my latest piece, and the reason why I mentioned that is because The identity, it is, again, it's both the character you try to project to audiences, both real and imagined, and also the story you tell yourself about the world around you and your place and value within it. So in essence, your identity is an effect. It's the character you think you are within the story you tell yourself about the world around you and your place and value within it. They're mutually inclusive things. But yeah, it's, you know, once you get past the meanings and the symbols and beliefs and all the pageantry and deep social acting, and you really start asking yourself like some deep probing questions to get to those underlying states of honesty, you get it, man. You get to see where the acting begins, where the authenticity ends and the acting begins. But it does require some deep level of commitment to honesty. I don't know why talking does that, but it's like I get sinuses. It's rough. Anywho, but yeah, man, that's where it is. So when someone who you love sets a boundary, you're happy. When someone who you view as competition sets a boundary, you feel offended. When someone who you respect and you revere says, please don't do this, you're like, hey, I'll try to be mindful of it. Got you. I won't do that. When someone who you don't respect says don't do this, you do it. You test the boundary. You want to see what they want to do because you want all the smoke. You're looking for a way to beef with them. And if you bring that energy to me, I'm getting rid of you. If not over here, then on the next side. And worse if I do it over there. And I'm saying that as an extension of this thing that I'm symbiotically bound to now. No one makes you be a dick. You practice being a dick. You practice self-worship. You practice being prideful. You're literally being given the answers, the answer key to reality, and your vanity won't let you even consider it. You're being given the cheat sheet to reality, and you're too proud to even fucking look at it because you think you know better. I've been destroying the wisdom of the wise for 13 fucking years and counting. No one's close to taking me down. No one is close to taking me down. I've been destroying the wisdom of the wise for 13 years and counting. And the worst part, and somehow, even though you've never seen me miss a step, you think somehow you know better than me. That's narcissism. People who can't, it's like looking at somebody like Israel Adesanya fight, seeing him lose to is it Jan Black? I forget the dude's name, Blachowicz or whatever his name is, and then thinking, oh yeah, I could beat Israel Adesanya. Get the fuck out of here. You haven't even seen me lose to anybody, but just looking at it, it's like you're a couch potato. You can't even fight, and you're like, oh yeah, I know how to beat him. No, you don't. No, the fuck you don't. But if you're narcissistic, then you think that you can do anything that you've never practiced to do and that you're not trained in doing. Narcissists are of the opinion, they make an agreement with themselves that they're great without ever having to prove it, without ever testing themselves against legitimate pressure. And in this species case, y'all, especially y'all behind the scenes, you've picked a beef with a meta being. Your pride and belief in stories that didn't even make fucking sense led you to knuckle up against a meta being. You don't win this. Now it's just it's a question of how bad you lose. And there's no limit to how bad you can lose. I was saying no cap before no cap became a thing. I was saying there's no cap to how you lose. That's how it used to be done. And now everybody's like, cap. You can defeat an avatar? Cap. Yeah. Once they're out of this body, that's when the real damage starts. Yeah. Pride is ridiculous. Don't break the hearts of people who love you, not because you love or don't love them, but because their loving you is a beautiful and precious thing, and it would be a sad truth if you broke it, no matter the reason we explain or justify it. Yeah, that's correct. You don't treat people who treat you good badly. You don't. Don't treat people who treat you good badly. Don't treat people who, like you. If you see your child, I saw this video of this kid running through a house, and I'm thinking it was his mother tripped him and let him fall. So I told you stop running in my fucking house. And you see all these people cackling like these fucking ridiculous hyenas at this little boy who was just humiliated and injured for his mother's own sense of gratification. She destroyed the bond between her and her son, being a narcissistic shitbag. She was like, hey, I feel pressure from the world, so I have the right to take my anger and frustration out on this person who trusts me with their entire being. That's what treating people who love you unconditionally is like. I remember when I used to get abused by my mom. It hurt not necessarily because of the physical pain. It hurt because I had no innate desire to cause harm to her, but she wanted to use me as a physical and a thing to release her rage into, both physically and emotionally. Your thing that exists for me to release my rage into, and I will beat you until the rage is out of me. That's what all abusive relationships are like. And when you don't have that energy in you towards someone, and they do something to hurt you, it hurts twice as bad. Because I never felt that way towards you. But then, as a child, you have to accept it from your parent. As an adult, dealing with people who you're just trying to help, you don't have to accept it. And you're like, yo, I came to you with love, and you came to me with animus? I came to you with a handful of flowers, and you came to me with a poisoned dagger. Are you serious? Oh, that's how we're going to play? Then it's a different ball game. No one is supposed to sit back and just take your shit. If you go around testing boundaries with people because you think they won't do anything, and you bring that shit to the wrong one, and for the record, I am the wrong one. Not for what I can do inside this body and its limitations, but what happens once I'm out of this body. I'm the fucking wrong one. You bring that shit to the wrong one, there's no rebounding from it. Your pride will march you into a battle you are not only woefully unprepared for, that you have no chance of winning and no chance of running from. Pride is a stupid thing. Hanging around people reinforces your pride. Separating from people, being honest with yourself and thinking is what syncs you up with reality. The more you lean into the group, the more you lean into the belief system, is the more you're going to get fucked up. The more corrupt you become. But it is an addiction. And just like being a fucking heroin addict, what you do when you're high on the idea of you is still your responsibility. That still falls on you. No one made you get the heroin. No one made you shoot it up. In the end, it was a choice. It felt good, but it was still a choice. If you murder someone while you were on heroin, why? Reality and like, oh man, you know what? You get a pass. No, you made a material impact. Just like if you murder someone because you're high on the idea of yourself, or you're high on the idea of listening to rage cultures tell you that you're allowed to take your anger and frustrations out on others, if you create imbalances in reality by listening to humans over reality, and you high off that acceptance and you high off the idea of you, and you can't get high off that stuff. Reality ain't gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna give you a pass. Oh, you murdered people because you believed in your own authority, you get a pass. That's not the way the system works. No. You will answer for everything you do. Everything you do. Okay. Yeah. So they're going to make me the bad guy either way. Can't win with them. So I left their circles. Yeah. Oh, wait. I missed one. Let me see. How do I know that narcissists aren't also meta beings? I know some narcissists who have done me wrong and who made up lies of how I did to them what they did to me, almost word for word, swapped the positions and told everyone I had people that they've hurt coming to me, congratulating me for doing these bad things, which I never actually did. But if those narcissists were metaphysical beings, I would say that they probably hate me for what they've done to me and my not joining them in the hate or disrespect, so they can make me a bad guy with the truth. I'll say it like this, man. Brother Ash, bro, meta beings. I've only met one other human so far that I know was hosting something other than hosting a non physical entity. And I may have met others, but meta beings, especially the ones that kind of rock in the vein that I would suggest that I do, they're more towards balance. They operate more towards balance. They operate more towards trying to elevate the state and condition of the world around them, as opposed to like sort of trying to protect and defend and enhance their identity. So any person who's accused you of doing something or who's told other people about you doing something, they are thinking in the realm of identity. They're not thinking in the realm of reality. They're thinking in idealism, not necessarily what exists mutually exclusive of personal feelings and beliefs and the personal experience. So I wouldn't worry about them. I don't think that meta beings have better things to do with their fucking time, energy, and effort. Meta beings have better things to do with their time, energy, and effort than worry about human affairs in that way. Like, they're not worried about social status. Look at me. I'm just full out. I'm full stop. Saying what it is. Fucking avatar. When you tell the truth on this level, there are obviously social consequences that come along with it. Obviously. People are going to look, and first thing they're going to want to do is like, oh, he's crazy. Oh, the same cowardly shit that most people do. But is my concern with impressing humans or seeing to my task, which performs above the level of the species? That's my thought. Guys, y'all already know what it is. This is Sorting and Sorting Principles with Donald King. I am Avatar Cycle 13, so far as I'm aware. And basically the point of this podcast series is to explain principles of social and natural organization to people, to help people come to understand the difference between how things function within the realm of idealism and how things function in reality and or according to natural organization, right? I shoot these podcasts on Mondays and Wednesdays on Facebook Live. If you want to catch some of the content I put up on Instagram, you can always follow me. I'm Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. Also, I fly these podcasts over to my YouTube channel. You can check them out there. And then also, I post content to Medium as per the last article that I did. You guys, if you get any sort of appreciation out of what I do and you want to see me reach a larger audience, which does work to your benefit when dealing with reality as a system, you can always feel free to donate to this. You can always cash out your boy a little bit of love at Donna Kang. That's DonnieKang. And then also you can join the Patreon family. Proceeds go to helping things get organized on this end so that I can focus more intently on my avatar work and putting out as many principles as I possibly can towards helping the species get the tools they need in order to sync up with reality. You know what I'm saying? And also maintenance with equipment and things of this nature. Because this stuff isn't free, and I've been doing this for free for 13 years. This has all been mostly footed by by me. And I've had within the last year to two, I've started getting some patrons coming in and people who like, yo, we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. Like a lot of people thank me that's cool, man. A lot of people actually inbox me and thank me like from around the world. Yo, you helped me make sense of this. You helped me do this. You helped me do that. Thank you. A lot of times I'm not expecting it because it's like I'm not doing this for praise or anything like that. But it is nice to know when someone benefits from what I'm doing, because it's like building a castle and not knowing if anybody's going to see it when you're done. And then every now and again, when you're down on the foundation, you look over and people are like, hey, man, you're halfway done. And you're like, and they're like, oh, man, this is like one of the best castles I've ever seen. You're like, shit, y'all see me? Thank you. So... yeah. But, yeah, man. And, again, we're trying to help as many people as I can. And I'm very grateful when I do get an opportunity to see the impact of some of the work that I've been putting out, impact that's had on people. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you kindly. Again, just to sort of circle back over it, always do a quick summation. What we want to do is... be mindful of boundaries that people set. Respect boundaries. Learn how to be respectful in general. When someone sets a boundary, it's not an attack against you. It's them doing something to protect them. Now you can talk with them about the boundary. You can try to understand why they put the boundary up. But it isn't your place to assign value to that boundary and then decide whether or not you are allowed to traverse it or violate it because you. That's narcissism. Narcissists suck the life out of fucking everything. They suck, literally suck the life out of everything. They're aggressive parasites. And you don't want to be an aggressive parasite because that's what reality is getting rid of at this point. You either learn how to adapt into the situation, which means learning how to set your pride aside and learning how to sync up with everything that's happening around you, or you stay trapped in your identity and you try and force your will onto other people and the world around you. It's your man, Donald King. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's your man, Donald King. I'm out. Have a good night.